Welcome back to the deep dive. We're jumping straight into, well, quite a session today.
Oh, definitely. We're looking at session 28 from the early sessions, book 1 of the Seth material. This one was recorded way back on Monday, February 24th, 1964.
And it's got this mix, hasn't it? It's deeply philosophical, but then there's this very human, almost domestic side to it, too. It's quite something.
It really is. And the way it starts is just perfect. No grand spiritual opening. Instead, we get Seth channeled through Jane Roberts, or Ruburt, as he calls her, sounding, frankly, pretty annoyed.
You really feel it, don't you? The transcript practically crackles. The first words set the whole mood. A fond and somewhat exasperated good evening.
Exasperated is the word, and we find out why immediately. Turns out, just 2 days after their previous session, Jane and her husband Joseph got this letter from a psychiatrist.
Ah, okay, that explains the tone.
Right. Seth says this letter almost undermined the confidence he'd been trying to build in Ruburt. So the whole session kicks off on the defensive, almost.
So that's our mission for this deep dive, then. We're digging into a session that's partly this incredibly complex metaphysical teaching.
But also this really intense, sometimes kind of funny, pushback against skepticism from the outside world. He's defending Jane's stability, his own credibility, explaining consciousness.
And giving some surprisingly firm advice about where the furniture should go.
Exactly. It's this wild mix. Cosmic truth meets everyday anxiety.
It really shows what happens when you blend these profound ideas with, very real human concerns. You get insight, but also, humor.
For sure.
Okay, before we get into the thick of it, just the mandatory bit. We're making this deep dive available totally free on all the usual platforms. It's purely for educational purposes to help you get a detailed, accessible look at this really fascinating material.
Right. Let's dive in.
So that opening, it's high stakes, isn't it? Jane's channeling this stuff that completely flies in the face of, established science at the time.
And then the medical world weighs in, basically questioning her sanity. Seth had to respond forcefully.
He couldn't just ignore it.
No way. The big fear, the clinical fear around trance and channeling is always dissociation. That it could lead to, losing it. Schizophrenia, hysteria, a total break.
So Seth's description of himself isn't just flavor text, it's strategic.
Totally. He calls himself an extremely sensitive but disciplined and sensible, if somewhat irascible, gentleman.
I always find that irascible part interesting. Why admit to being irritable when you're trying to sound super stable?
Well, I think it works, doesn't it?
Ah.
It makes him sound, real. Not some perfect detached AI or something. But the key words are disciplined and sensible. He's saying, look, I feel things, I'm sensitive, but I'm in control. Unlike maybe some other folks.
The irascibility is just him being annoyed he has to deal with this earthly nonsense instead of getting on with the real teaching.
Pretty much. And then he just flips the whole stability argument right back at them. He actually says, I may make bold to remark that I am more stable than you or Ruburt or your fine doctor.
Wow. That's bold, like he says.
It's pure confidence. He's basically saying, my reality, my perspective is inherently more stable because it's not limited by your physical fears.
Yeah.
And crucially, he takes responsibility.
Right. He says he feels responsible for them, for the results of the communication.
Exactly. Which reframes Jane. She's not some passive victim potentially being taken over. She's an active collaborator, guided by this, disciplined intelligence.
So the psychiatrist's letter is likely full of this fear of dissociation as some kind of involuntary breakdown. And Seth tackles that head on with this amazing metaphor.
Oh, the monster one. Yeah, it's fantastic. He wants to counter the fear that dissociation might grab hold like some black, vague, and furry monster, carrying him away to the Netherlands of hysteria, schizophrenia, or insanity.
It's so specific. Black, vague, and furry. Why that imagery, do you think? It's almost cartoony.
I think that's the point. He's taking this big, scary clinical concept and turning it into this slightly ridiculous bogeyman. Vague and furry. Takes the power out of it, makes it seem less threatening, more like a childish fear you can overcome once you understand it.
And the understanding comes from consent. Right. He keeps stressing that Ruburt is in control.
Yes. Could snap back to normal consciousness in a split second. It's presented as a focus skill, not being possessed or lost.
Which leads to the really practical advice, the warning against using the state as an escape.
That's the real danger he identifies. Not the state itself, but the motive for entering it. If Ruburt started using it to hide from life's problems, that, he says, could of course have dire consequences.
So the antidote is more life.
Pretty much. Healthy outside counterbalancing experience. It's a constant theme, isn't it? You can't just retreat inwards.
He even warns Joseph specifically about being too solitary.
Right. The message is clear. Explore the inner worlds, yes, but stay firmly anchored in the outer one. That physical engagement, that interaction, grounds the whole thing, makes it real, integrated.
Okay, so he's dealt with the "is she crazy" question. What's the next line of defense for a skeptic?
Well, if it's not psychosis, it must just be coming from her. It's merely Jane's subconscious talking. Brilliant, maybe, but still just her own mind.
The classic explanation. How does he counter that?
With one of his best analogies, I think, he has to separate the channel from the source, the medium from the message.
The fish in the water.
That's the one. He says his communication passes through her subconscious, sure. But as a fish swims through water, the fish is not water. And I am not Rubert's subconscious.
Simple but effective. The subconscious is just the environment he has to move through to communicate.
Exactly. It's the medium, the atmosphere, but he's the distinct personality within it.
Which also answers the question, well, if you're so independent, why use her subconscious at all? Why not just, appear?
Right. He explains it takes some assembly, some adaptation. Her subconscious provides the point of entry, but also, fascinatingly, a camouflage pattern.
Camouflage. What does that mean in this context?
Well, he relates it to, wait for it, so-called flying saucers.
Seriously?
Yeah.
UFOs. In 1964.
Yep. It's very of its time reference, obviously. But the idea seems to be about vibrational matching or dimensional phasing.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Like the theories back then that UFOs weren't just nuts and bolts ships, but maybe phenomena shifting into our reality.
Kind of, yeah. Seth seems to be saying his own vibration or state of being is so different from physical reality that he can't just pop in. He needs the subconscious like a filter or an adapter to create a pattern that allows his consciousness to translate into our terms, into language.
It's like a necessary step-down transformer for cosmic energy.
Good way to put it. It's an admission that contact isn't simple. It requires meeting halfway, metaphysically speaking. And to prove it's him and not just Jane's mind, he brings up that telepathy incident.
From session 26 with their friend Philip.
Yeah. That specific bit of info Jane got telepathically. Something she didn't know consciously. Seth points to it directly as proof that more than his own subconscious was involved. He says that external validation was really important for Rubert's confidence, too.
Makes sense. And then he completely reframes dissociation itself. It's not scary. It's just changing channels.
The two doors, or two channels metaphor. Brilliant, really. It takes all the fear out of it.
So channel 1 is our normal, everyday waking consciousness focused outside.
Right. And the trance state, dissociation, is just turning down the volume on channel 1 so you can tune into channel 2, the inner reality, the connection to the entity. Simple adjustment.
But the really cool part is what he says next, that eventually you won't need to turn one down to hear the other.
Exactly. That's the goal. Learning to focus in two directions simultaneously. Having two doors open at once. Listening to two channels at once.
So it's not about escaping consciousness. It's about expanding it, holding more reality at the same time.
Towards a unified awareness.
Yeah.
Powerful stuff.
Okay, so defense mounted, mechanism explained. Now he gets to the core teaching he wanted to deliver in the first place. And it's big. We're talking entity level stuff.
Yeah, the scale just explodes here. He starts with condensed time.
Right, which is the time the entity experiences while one of its personalities, like us, is living a whole life down here.
And how long does our entire lifespan, all our struggles and joys, feel to the entity?
But a flash, just poof.
Let that sink in for a moment. 70, 80 years. A flash. What does that do to our ideas about slow, gradual progress or paying off karmic debts over lifetimes?
It suggests the entity isn't watching a slow motion replay. It's getting the essence, the core data, almost instantly.
Right. It's not about the duration, maybe, but the intensity or the quality of the experience, the insight gained.
Yeah.
It absorbs that concentrated packet of learning in that flash.
Which leads straight into the idea that our life is like a dream, the entity's dream.
Legitimately compared, he says. But is it a passive dream, like we have at night? Or is the entity more involved?
Seth suggests it's pretty active, right? That the entity gets insight and satisfaction.
Okay.
And is actually directing and organizing personalities, similar to how an individual organizes their dreams.
Yeah, think about your own dreams. You're often processing stuff, working through fears, desires, sorting information into some kind of narrative, however weird. The entity's doing that, but on a cosmic scale, across multiple realities.
So the entity is the dreamer, the director. But then there's this paradox. He says personalities come from the entity, become independent, and then return.
While never leaving him for an instant. How does that work? Independent, but never separate.
Our physical brains kind of short circuit on that one.
It defies our normal understanding of space and separation. Maybe think
Okay.
of like a cell in your body. It has its own job, its own processes, its own life, in a way.
But it's never not part of the body.
Exactly. The entity is the whole spiritual body,
Uh-huh.
and we're like these incredibly complex conscious cells within it. We get genuine independence, free will, the whole deal, but we're still operating within the entity's larger energy field and structure.
So the entity is this vast organizing consciousness using all these different personalities across different planes or realities.
For overall fulfillment and development, as Seth puts it. He even compares it to things we do understand, like multiple personality cases or just the different roles we play in one life, parent, worker, friend.
It's like the entity is the ultimate multitasker, exploring existence through all these different facets of itself.
Cosmic multitasking. I like that.
So we've got the big picture, the entity dreaming us. Now, how does that entity stay connected? How does the dream feedback loop work? Seth goes deeper than just the subconscious.
Oh yeah, way deeper. He talks about the self-conscious beyond the subconscious. This is the part of us that never lost contact with the source, with the entity.
And this inner core, it's doing more than we think. It's not just passively aware.
Apparently not. Seth says it directs all those things we consider automatic. Breathing, heartbeat, nutrient absorption, all that vital stuff isn't just biology ticking over. It's actively managed by this higher inner self-conscious part.
The real captain of our ship, basically. It knows where we came from, gets all the data from the entity.
So why are we, the personality reading this, so blissfully unaware of this superconscious inner self?
The filter, the subconscious again.
Right. It's doing double duty. It's a barrier, protecting our everyday consciousness from being totally swamped by this constant stream of cosmic information.
But it's also a threshold we can learn to cross. It carefully sifts what the inner core receives, translating just enough to keep the personality functioning in, 3D reality.
Seth uses that layer analogy.
Yeah.
You've got your personal memories, then deeper down, racial or collective memories,
Yeah.
and then beneath that.
You're not looking out at this world anymore. You look out upon another with the face of this other self-conscious part of you. Whoa.
And that image leads straight into maybe the weirdest but most brilliant analogy in the whole session. The ludicrous one.
Oh, the two-faced creature. This bit is genuinely funny, but man, the implications are huge.
He literally says, pretend that you are some weird creature with two faces.
Okay, let's try. Face one. Our normal face, looking out at the physical world. Got it. Had its own brain, tuned to physics and time.
Face two. Looking inward or outward onto another plane, entirely the entity's reality. And it has its own brain, tuned to inner data, nonlinear time, all that.
And stuck between these two brains, connecting them, allowing the whole thing to work as one being.
Is the subconscious, the great mediator.
But here's the kicker, the paradox.
Neither of the two faces would ever see the other world. They would not be aware of each other, and yet each would be fully self-conscious.
Mind blown. So the me talking now is fully conscious, focused out here, completely oblivious to this other fully conscious me that's simultaneously looking out onto a different reality connected to the entity.
That's the idea. And
Huh?
it suddenly makes sense of things like intuition, gut feelings, maybe even telepathy or seeing the future. That's the other face doing its thing, perceiving stuff non-locally.
And the subconscious filter just lets tiny snippets, feelings, or impulses leak through to this face, often without us even knowing where they came from. We just get a feeling or have an idea.
Exactly. We get the results without seeing the workshop on the other side.
Okay, wow, deep breath. And then, wham! Seth pivots completely.
Doesn't he just, from the two-faced metaphysical creature, straight into furniture placement?
The hilarious furniture changings and rechangings and rechangings. You get the feeling Jane and Joseph were really stressing about their apartment layout.
Oh, clearly. But it's great because it grounds everything again. Seth takes his responsibility seriously, right down to interior design advice if needed. He's like this cosmic consultant who also cares if your living room flows properly.
And he's very specific. Bookcases. Leave them. They're at optimum benefit. Bedroom layout. Fine. Move on.
But he does offer that one constructive suggestion for Ruburt, for Jane's sensitivity, the safety valve.
Right. A little permanent chair or desk in the bedroom. A quiet, stable spot just for her. It acknowledges the inner work needs that kind of physical anchor sometimes.
It's quite thoughtful, actually. And then there's that hilarious moment where Seth basically censors himself. He remembers suggesting they eat in the kitchen once, and Jane must have really hated the idea.
Because he says, in fact, I take back my suggestion about dining in the kitchen, lest he pull out a wall for the purpose.
You get a real sense of their dynamic. He respects her strong will, even when she's not in trance. It's charming.
But underlying the furniture jokes is the same serious point, balance, especially for Joseph.
Yeah, back to the outside contact. Joseph needs such contact since you're not consciously aware of its intrinsic value. Even the grounded one needs to get out more.
Keep going out Saturday nights, have friends over, take walks. Simple stuff, but essential for balancing the intense inner exploration.
Totally. And then we get that little flash of reincarnational humor.
Oh, the yo-yo incident. Joseph remembers Jane getting this flash that Seth once called him yo-yo, and he wants details.
And Seth just shuts it down. I called you yo-yo when you were my father, and I am not going into any reincarnational material tonight. End of story.
It's brilliant. One minute he's discussing the nature of the entity, the next he's dodging awkward questions about past life family nicknames.
Shows personality, sets boundaries, it's great. And then the final bit of lightness before the tone shifts again. The cat.
Willie the cat. They ask if Willie senses Seth during the sessions because he doesn't seem bothered anymore.
And Seth's answer is just perfect cosmic humility. I have no idea at the present time. I am not all that important to your cat.
Although sometimes he senses me quite plainly. Love that.
And the note says that when Jane picked Willie up during this, the cat merely yawned and stretched in her arms. Priorities, you know.
Yeah.
Cosmic entities versus a good nap. The nap wins.
Okay, so we've had the deep philosophy, the self-defense, the domestic comedy, and now the mood darkens quite a bit.
Yeah, this last major section it's chilling, actually. It deals with their neighbor, Miss Callahan. And it ties together the entity's dream, the two-faced self, and real-world life and death.
Joseph sets the scene in the notes. Miss Callahan, 74 years old, neighbor, now in the hospital. And Jane had this really specific, vivid dream about her month earlier, back in July '63.
A prophetic dream. She saw Miss Callahan in hospital, looking thin, wearing black, crying, saying she was going away.
Understandably, Jane had hoped the black clothing wasn't literal. She tried to find a less serious meaning.
Who wouldn't? But when they visited Miss Callahan in the hospital that evening, Jane got this direct flash from Seth.
Confirming the dream was accurate, and Jane had been too eager to put a less serious implication upon it. Oof.
And then comes the core message of this part. The really disturbing conclusion Seth delivers. He says Miss Callahan had made a decision subconsciously to die.
Rather than go through with planned eye surgery for cataracts.
Yes. Think about that. Not a conscious I give up, but a decision made by that deeper inner self. The self-conscious beyond the subconscious. The other face.
And Seth says she made that decision at the exact moment Jane had the dream about her, months before she even went into the hospital physically.
This is huge. It suggests our conscious awareness might just be along for the ride sometimes. That these massive life or death decisions can be made at a level we're not privy to by that part of us still directly connected to the entity organizing its dream.
The inner captain decided the physical camouflage pattern wasn't needed anymore, and that decision rippled out, picked up precognitively by Jane.
It challenges the whole idea of just being a victim of circumstance or illness, doesn't it? It suggests a deep, deep level of intention, even in choosing death, though it's usually unconscious to the personality.
It's a really stark validation of the inner senses, but also shows the potentially terrifying weight of the information they can access, a very sobering end to the main teaching.
Definitely leaves you thinking.
So, what a session. We went from Seth being exasperated about psychiatry
to defending sanity with furry monsters,
explaining contact with fish and water analogies,
grappling with condensed time and life as an entity's dream,
visualizing that bizarre but brilliant two-faced creature,
detouring through furniture placement and catnaps,
and landing on this incredibly profound and slightly chilling insight about subconscious life and death choices. Whew.
It covered a lot, but the core takeaways, despite the complexity, seem pretty consistent, don't they? First, stability comes from balance.
Right.
You need that outside engagement to ground the inner work.
Right, can't just float off into the ether. And second, this paradox of being. We are independent personalities, but we're also fundamentally always connected to the entity that dreams us. We never really leave.
And that final bit of advice from Seth feels crucial, especially given the context of the psychiatrist's letter that started it all.
Absolutely. Remember, no harm can come to either of you through training your inner senses. Fear can hold you back greatly in these efforts.
That fear, that anxiety about the unknown, about losing control, That's often the biggest block, isn't it?
For sure. So maybe the provocative thought to leave you, the listener, with today comes from that dream world idea in this session.
Okay.
Seth suggests that when you dream, you create a world with its own reality, its own time, its own semi-personalities, and that world is totally unaware that you, its creator, exist outside of it, sleeping or waking.
Right. It functions independently within its own context.
So, if that's true,
Yeah.
what does it imply about our reality? How independent are we from the entity that's dreaming us? Is our feeling of total separation real, or is it just, maximum delegated authority within a dream we don't realize we're in?
Is independence the same as separation,
Yeah,
or just really convincing self-governance within a bigger field? That's a good one to chew on.
definitely something to ponder. We want to thank you for joining us for this deep dive into session 28. The source, again, is the incredible Seth material, specifically the Early Sessions Book 1, which is published by New Awareness Network.
And we really do encourage you, if this sparks your interest, to dive into the books yourself. There's so much more there. You can find them and more info at the New Awareness Network website and bookstore. That's sethcenter.com/early sessions.
We'll be back with another deep dive soon. Thanks for listening.
Ta-ta, tootsies.